Go. Oh. Well, here we go. And because I've just realised we haven't gone live because I'm not a bright man, just give me 2 seconds because we will do our first track. Okay, so now that we're back and now that we're able to actually make everything function, because that didn't take several attempts, how are you doing, my dude? How is life? How is the lockdown? How is everything that you are actually going to get up
God.
to?
Who would have thought that it would have taken a literal international pandemic for me to find full-time work?
Oh man, that is, I mean, yeah, I'm totally with you. I mean, like, I've ended up actually being more productive because of a giant global pandemic than I ever have been on my own, with just my own kind of need to do anything, which is really stupid and really not a great use of my time.
I have put on a stone in body weight, and I have drunk more during this period than I have at any point before.
Man, I think I'm exactly the same. Actually, I think that I am just making myself worse and worse health wise. The more and more I go on, really. I can't understand myself really. So really, I just wanted to kind of say, as we're starting this, really the whole point was to kind of make people come together, have a little listen, have a little laugh at some tracks and the things we put together, just because it was kind of nice, and I wanted to try and find ways of making it available to people for them to actually access things that would be entertaining and stuff that would make life feel a little less depressing. So have you got anything for us?
Oh, I'm sure I'll have plenty for her.
Fantastic. I mean, the thing is a lot of people as well, they can get into the conversation that is in basically on the stream as it goes, and it's just I can't wait to see what really comes out of this, because I mean, who knows, we could be doing more. We have a couple of things. We have some Twitter conversations, like stuff regarding the lockdown. We have an interview, actually, that I did last night with the amazing boys from the Riotous Monks of Mount Hay coming up. And we have a little bit of a dedication to a wedding that happened on Tuesday. So, you know, it's been a bit of a busy week, at least for people I know. And unfortunately as well, this time last Saturday, the online Pride was cancelled. So I guess in a little way we should do a little bit of celebrating that and taking part in all that, shouldn't we? Seems best in my eyes. So I think, without further ado, really, unless you've got anything else?
No, my phone has been tapping out here, so I'm going to switch from phone to laptop while you get everything properly underway.
Well, okay, then we will pop on our next 2 tracks, which is a lovely little single from a small band that some people might know called Fall Out Boy, and an actual really small band that I really enjoy called Moon by Moon. So strap in and enjoy yourself.
Whoa.
So that was the wonderful Moon by Moon. I've seen those guys live. They are fantastic. What do you think, Nick?
Uh, I think I can be heard now, so that's a good start.
Okay, that's one way to do it.
My technology stopped tapping out. They sounded amazing. Yeah, I could really see how they would be good to see live.
Yeah, they're fantastic live. They were really good. Saw them alongside the Riotous Monks of Mount Hay, who we will be hearing from later on in the show. So, really, I was kind of just wanting to chat about what you've been getting up to. What have you been doing during this whole lockdown time, my dude?
You know, all those people who have been going out and getting themselves new skill sets and really trying to better their lives?
Mm-hmm.
Not that.
Not that. Okay.
I have spent a whole lot of time drinking, playing FIFA, sleeping, and then eventually, I find the weirdest thing is, at the start of this lockdown, I was a veritable drain on society. I had I had 2 part-time jobs, and that was about it. I've gone from being useless drain on society to key worker.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty amazing. I've gone from having a reputable job of like cutting hair and making people feel their absolute best to making really daft videos on the internet. So I'm pretty sure we just swapped places, really.
Yeah, we've just like flipped around. Got all Friday the 13th on each other.
I'm very worried about it. Did we see the same movie here?
I was thinking of Freaky Friday.
Yeah, I was going to say that is absolutely not the same movie. I was thinking, are you going to show up at my house and kill me? So
I would love to see a crossover of Freaky Friday and Friday the 13th. To be honest,
where Lindsay Lohan chases down and tries to murder Jamie Lee Curtis. It's not that dissimilar. It's just Lindsay Lohan now
changes places with Jason Voorhees.
That's so much worse. So you were saying about these people who are obviously growing new skills and being able to do new things. Well, I have a small video of a child who has come up with a brand new skill, and it's absolutely amazing. It's a little song, right? And I will play it for our lovely audience who can hear it.
I wonder what's inside your butthole. I wonder what's inside your butthole.
It is called I Wonder What's Inside Your Butthole.
There's aliens all inside your butthole. What's inside your butthole? I always want to know. What's inside your butthole? I always want to know. What's inside your butt?
So, yeah, what do you think of that one? The fact that there is a song now made by a small child that says, "What's inside your butthole?"
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's the next stage of modern hip hop anyway. So praise it as being a trendsetter.
I'm really excited to hear what her album is. I mean, her mum is saying that it's all going to be on Spotify and iTunes and everything, and that's just incredible for me.
I just can't wait for the SoundCloud.
What SoundCloud rappers
tape to drop?
Yeah, that's going to be great when all the SoundCloud rappers get involved. That is absolutely going to just be... Just the remixes alone are going to be absolutely worth our time.
The bass drop in that song is going to be absolutely epic when they get their hands on it.
You're making it sound more and more like one of those easycore bands, which is very exciting for me. Mainly because I still weirdly love A Day to Remember, even though they're kind of trash to listen to.
Trash. You gotta love it, but it's still trash.
Yeah. It's not good. So as well, I guess we've got to kind of talk about the pandemic outside and the horrible things that is. So I'm going to just say I'm going to play this 30-second clip of a video of Danny DeVito, who is the spokesperson of an entire generation. I don't know how, but he is, and it's his message for everybody about the lockdown. So here goes.
Danny DeVito, and I'm asking you from the bottom of my heart, all over the state of New York, stay home. I mean, everybody. I mean, we got this virus, this pandemic, and young people can get it. and they can transmit it to old people. And next thing you know, I'm out of there. So Governor Cuomo asked me to ask you, please do us a favor, all of us, and stay home, not spread this virus around. Thank you. Watch a little TV, why don't you?
So yeah, basically we are handing at this point in our time in this nightmare factory that is the current state of the world, we have our in our hands the life of Danny DeVito. And I think that's something that we really need to be very careful of. It's that Spider-Man thing of with great power comes great responsibility. Let's not kill Danny DeVito, which is the removed line from that whole thing.
I think that's something everyone can get on board with.
Well, don't kill Danny DeVito.
Should be a priority in most people's lives.
Well, yeah, I mean, I am slightly worried though that once it does come to that time, and we will all live in a time where that happens. There may be a church to him.
Oh, I don't think that's too far out of the questioning.
Well, yeah, and I mean, can you imagine
the Church of DeVito?
You go into a church building or a renovated church building, and somebody says, "Can I offer you an egg in these trying times?" And that's like the equivalent of "God be with you." Like, what do you do in that situation?
And I mean, like Catholicism, there will be just as much drinking involved with it, I imagine. So
I mean, yeah. I really I agreed to that and then replayed it in my head and realised that, oh boy, I really hope there aren't some devout Catholics listening. We're very sorry, the Catholic audience. But yeah, maybe your time is best spent.
Apologising to the Catholic faith on my first broadcast.
Yeah, it's not a great sign, is it?
Yeah, that's fantastic stuff.
But I think as well, a lot of what we've done in this time, I think there's a lot of change coming in a big way. I don't know about you, and I think we're going to be making some serious progress towards some change, hopefully. I mean, we've got a lot of things that we'll talk about, some of the like heavier stuff later.
Absolutely,
because unfortunately, thanks to the joys of Twitter, we will have to kind of have a conversation about that and the things that have happened as of the past 24 hours.
I'll keep it light right now.
Yeah. So I think I'll
ask you, what is the number one thing you're looking forward to doing once you can get fully out of lockdown?
Part of me wants to get a new tattoo booked. Another part of me just kind of wants to go and adopt a dog with my wife. I gotta be honest, because a fun and a sad part. We lost our best friend during this time, and so we kind of want to spread the love that he gave us to another dog. So watch out, all the shelters. We are coming when this is up. What about you, my dude?
Like you, funnily, one of my first thoughts is tattoos, much to the great chagrin of my family. But
well, I was going to say, my parents are listening to this, and they're probably shaking their heads, so,
Yeah, tattoos are big on the agenda. Part of me just wants to be able to go for a haircut again.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that's just because I miss you, or because I miss not looking like a hobo.
Oh, well, either way, that's very sweet. I mean, I feel very, very, touched by that might be playing into it. I mean, I can't wait to get mine sorted out, because unfortunately, being the person who cuts hair in your family means that you can help everyone else, but you can't sort your own out. And it's kind of gone into this sort of looking to begin with like Ewan McGregor in episode 2 kind of look. Like that's kind of where it's going now. Which isn't bad by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it just needs shape.
I'm trying to remember what Ewan McGregor looks like in Attack of the Clones, and to be honest, my brain has just blocked out that entire movie. So.
What? Oh, it's his dreamiest look. Like, that's just a fact of life. Like that.
No, you can't compete with bearded Obi-Wan from Episode 3.
He has a beard in 2. Is it like? Is this going to be an argument that we have on the show?
I
Like,
can't remember what he looks like. in Attack of the
Google
Clones.
it. You have a computer. I mean,
Okay, that's...
what I might do as well.
Oh, yeah, actually, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
almost got a mullet.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's like that seems to be the direction this is going. I mean, what I'm gonna do as well is save this image and I will put it on the actual screen for people when they are watching the stream, because I just feel like it's
Everyone's
worthwhile, really, for the people to see.
Everyone's got to appreciate dreamy Obi-Wan.
Exactly. Worst comes to the worst, I forget it's on the screen, and we just have that there. Hope you enjoy that. I will have to remember to take that off later. But I think what I will do, I will play our next tracks. It's 3 tracks. One of them is a track by the beautiful The 1975. I saw them live, but this is really just us platforming a statement about change. And the other 2 are Neon Dreams, Sick of Feeling Useless, and What is Love by Hadaway. So I hope you enjoy, and strap on in.
Jag tänker det här, för det hör jag inte riktigt heller. We are right now in the beginning of a climate and ecological crisis. And we need to call it what it is. An emergency. We must acknowledge that we do not have the situation under control and that we don't have all the solutions yet. Unless those solutions mean that we simply stop doing certain things. We must admit that we are losing this battle. We have to acknowledge that the older generations have failed. All political movements in their present form have failed. But Homo sapiens have not yet failed. Yes, we are failing, but there is still time to turn everything around. We can still fix this. We still have everything in our own hands. But unless we recognize the overall failures of our current systems, we most probably don't stand a chance. We are facing a disaster of unspoken sufferings for enormous amounts of people. And now is not the time for speaking politely or focusing on what we can or cannot say. Now is the time to speak clearly. Solving the climate crisis is the greatest and most complex challenge that Homo sapiens have ever faced. The main solution, however, is so simple that even a small child can understand it. We have to stop our emissions of greenhouse gases. And either we do that or we don't. You say that nothing in life is black or white, but that is a lie, a very dangerous lie. Either we prevent a 1.5 degree of warming or we don't. Either we avoid setting off that irreversible chain reaction beyond human control or we don't. Either we choose to go on as our civilization or we don't. That is as black or white as it gets. Because there are no grey areas when it comes to survival. Now we all have a choice. We can create transformational action that will safeguard the living conditions for future generations. Or we can continue with our business as usual and fail. That is up to you and me. And yes, we need a system change rather than individual change. But you cannot have one without the other. If you look through history, all the big changes in society have been started by people at the grassroots level. People like you and me. So I ask you to please wake up and make the changes required possible. To do your best is no longer good enough. We must all do the seemingly impossible. Today, we use about 100 million barrels of oil every single day. There are no politics to change that. There are no rules to keep that oil in the ground. So we can no longer save the world by playing by the rules. Because the rules have to be changed. Everything needs to change. And it has to start today. So everyone out there, it is now time for civil disobedience. It is time to rebel.
Do you remember that coffee stain checklist? We had our hearts on our sleeves, so reckless. Open minds to whatever came next, yeah. Living our best life, no stress, yeah. Whatever happened to all our good faith? We used to be so free in the old days. Anxiety got us shattered, telling us shut up, it don't matter. It's hard to hear when the world gets too real inside of us. We just need to feel some love. Scream out but nobody listens. Try hard but it don't make a difference. Sick of feeling useless. Sick of feeling useless. Everybody's living so selfish. Got us feeling young, dumb and helpless. Sick of feeling useless. Sick of feeling useless. Do you remember that old school mixtape? We put it on to forget our mistakes. Hanging out like every single weekend. Good vibes, all smiles on the east end. Can we find our way back to those nights? Get lost in the neon bar lights. Never had a care to give. No one told us how to live. It's hard to heal when the world gets too real inside of us. We just need to feel some love. Scream out but nobody listens. Try hard but it don't make a difference. Sick of feeling useless. Sick of feeling useless. Everybody's living so selfish. Got us feeling young, dumb and helpless. Sick of feeling useless. Sick of feeling useless. Scream out but nobody listens. Try hard but it don't make a difference. Sick of feeling useless. Sick of feeling useless. Everybody's living so selfish. Got us feeling young, dumb and helpless. Sick of feeling useless. Sick of feeling useless. Sick of feeling useless. Sick of feeling useless.
What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more. Baby, don't
So there we are. We are back, and from what I see on my notes here, Nick, you've got a section on sports today. Nick, have I lost it? Oh, hang on. Okay, why can't I hear you? Oh, right,
I
fixed
don't
it.
know. Why can't you hear me?
Right, turns out I'd clicked the wrong button. It was meant to bring you back, and for some reason just didn't. So yes, you have a thing on sports today. What is it?
Yeah,
What you got?
absolutely. So, I think in amidst this lockdown, there's one thing that we can have a really interesting talk about, and that is the state and nature of all different varieties of sports. And I wanted to pick your brain on your opinions on it, because for me, I'm a bit biased. I'm a big sports fan. I like sports in pretty much all the varieties.
You are a big sports boy, yeah.
I'm a big sports boy. So, first thing I want to bring up with you.
Right.
What do you know of what's going on at the Premier League at the minute? I'll take that silence as a nothing.
Yeah, I know. Not a darn thing,
Okay.
I did.
So, I'll inform you of what's happening, and we'll get your reaction.
Okay.
So, effectively, the Premier League went and cancelled all of its games because of, not cancelled them, but postponed them
Right,
because of this virus.
right.
They since authorized the return to training originally in small groups of non-contact,
Right.
and
yeah.
just the other day they have allowed Premier League teams and I think other like championship level clubs to return to training in larger groups with tackling involved, but with limited contact outside of that. With the aim being to restart Premier League games behind closed doors on the 17th of June.
Behind closed doors makes it sound so sketchy.
Well, basically, the idea is they are going to broadcast every single game from now to the end of the season.
Oh, okay.
So
okay. Right.
fans will be able to see what's happening, but they won't be allowed inside stadiums to watch.
Right, okay.
So the idea being there, they are preventing the large gatherings of fans inside the stadiums, but players have voiced concerns. Newcastle left-back Danny Rose said there should be absolutely no discussion of football restarting at all until numbers in terms of infected and deaths drop significantly.
I mean, he's got a
And
damn good point, if I'm honest.
Watford captain Troy Deeney refused to return to training, stating that his child had breathing difficulties on birth. He was still a very young child, I think maybe 1 or 2, and that he wasn't going to risk getting the virus himself by turning up to training when it could potentially harm his child.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I mean...
Yeah, absolutely. So, what do you think about the Premier League and potentially other top-flight football leagues? We know the Bundesliga that's the German top-flight.
Yeah, I
returned
guessed...
earliest.
Not to sound too dreadful, but I had kind of guessed by the pronunciation.
What do you think about them returning so soon?
Well, I mean, obviously, I don't know enough about sports to kind of like have a massive. I'm not going to claim to be the smartest person on this topic, but I think it's the same problem as when they're trying to push for people who are in hairdressing, people who are in like food services, people who are in like they want services for the people who they deem are okay enough to stay home and be in the lockdown for as long as it takes and whatever. They need entertainment, they need their like services, they need blah de blah de blah. They want all their leisure activities to stay the same, but they don't want anything to like be done about saving people's lives, basically. In one
seems
regard.
at the minute, the main argument seems to be welfare versus economy. There seems to be
Yeah.
you're either on the side of people's lives need to be put first, or you're on the side of the economy is paramount and more people are going to suffer if everything goes to hell. And that seems to be what's happening in America more than anything else.
Oh yeah, that's been a massive issue for them.
'Cause, I mean, I'm not the biggest supporter of the Conservative government or the Conservatives in general, but credit where credit's due, the furlough system they put in place has helped a lot of people, and I think that was a very good decision on their behalf, and one
Yes.
which I can't see the likes of the Republicans bringing in.
However,
And how the Republicans have already left it too late, and now they've got riots on the streets.
well,
not for
I don't think that's
just
the only
that, but-
reason.
Not just for that, but before, and we're probably going to get into that discussion later in the show, but even before the recent race issues in America, we have seen lots of protest and disquiet on the street, because all they did was give everyone $1,200 to try and make it through this pandemic if it couldn't work, and obviously that wasn't enough. And I think
Yeah, I mean, they
comparatively-
didn't think through the amount of time or the amount of money that would be needed. I mean, $1,200, that is... I mean, if you just take the number and move it straight across to pounds, you realise that is somebody's minimum wage, like, pay for a month. That's about what
Yeah.
it is.
Absolutely.
Like, that's an apprentice wage kind of thing. It's nonsense.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. I do think if we bring it back to sport, I do think there are ways and means that sport can be done without endangering the sports people. And I think if that is true, then if that is the case, then it should be done.
That's right,
I
FIFA
think-
tournaments.
Yeah, that was actually. Did you see that on social media?
Yes, I have seen weird things. But I think my
So-
favourite thing, I will say this is my favourite thing, I've been wondering when I can kind of bring it up in this topic, is I think it's a South Korean team got in massive trouble because they put sex dolls in the audience because they
Yes,
didn't have an
that was-
actual audience, but it made the players feel like things were back to normal. And I think
Yeah.
on
so,
the one hand,
what-
because I saw photos, all of the dolls were dressed, right? So it's nothing like crass. So in that regard, I think
Yeah,
that's fine. I think that's the funniest use, and that just seems genius.
I will also point out, setting a great example, all the sex dolls were wearing PPE.
Exactly.
And I mean,
like they were
I
doing
think-
better than some of the people.
For those people who are refusing to wear PPE, there are sex dolls making better life choices than you. So,
It's never. I don't think anybody expected that to be a sentence aimed at them at any point. in
well,
their lives.
exactly. If I bring it back to sports, because
Yes.
as I said,
Sorry,
we
don't want to
have got
distract.
we do have a situation where I think certain sports can be undertaken without putting competitors at risk. I think football, for the most part, is actually one of them. I think so long as nobody is playing with the virus, then I think for the most part of all the sports you could be taking part in, football's a pretty safe one. All things
I
considered.
just started laughing at the idea of somebody saying, "Yeah, you've got to stay 6 feet apart," and you going, "But I've
Suddenly
got to stop
defenders are
it."
finding their job much harder.
Yeah, you've got the ball, and so you're like, "Well, I'm home safe. Like nothing can
Everyone's
harm
running
me."
away from you.
And I just thought that was such an ingenious, like, hilarious thing to my brain, was just the idea that you are now untouchable. Like,
It's football, but you can't touch the person with the ball.
exactly. I mean, but I still think, like, a bit of we are at a point now where esports are enough of a thing that temporarily we could
Yes.
replace regular sport with esports, but just
I will
use the
say,
players of the regular sport.
The Premier League, to try and keep people engaged and try and keep people interested, actually have had what they have called e-Premier League invitationals,
I love that.
where all the Premier League clubs were invited to participate, and they could either choose one of their players or a fan of their choice to play FIFA on their behalf against other Premier League teams using their own team in the game and having a great big knockout tournament to win the
that-
invitational.
That is amazing, but
Um,
I think there needs to be, and I think if there isn't one already, but I have a feeling there is, a version of FIFA. I think it exists of you can just control one player if you have enough
Yes, there is.
people. Yeah. So why not just have the team, like, all of them, you set them all up. Everybody agrees it's either PlayStation or Xbox, whatever. Whoever donates enough, they get like the whole deal. I don't know. It's how money works in a capitalist society. But you then,
I think that would.
they all have to take their role and play it the best they can on FIFA, because then as well you get to go, oh hey, they're actually also good at this other thing.
Yeah, I think that would actually be a really interesting experiment to see, especially if you get players playing their own position with their own player in the game.
Yeah, because
and
then
watching them get frustrated at themselves, because God knows I've played FIFA and I've like cursed obscenely at players for not being as good as they should be.
I mean,
and I want to see players going like, I should be faster.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I mean, like there was those there have been racist incidents that my brother has shared to me with the fact that certain black players have like found themselves with either a skinhead or an afro, and they're like,
oh yeah,
no, that's wrong. That's not even how I look. And I think like it's moments like that we would be able to kind of like fine tune FIFA in such a way, because if you're going, oh, right, okay, the players themselves could be actually having to go through this again, we don't know, you'd make sure it was actually, like, good and not accidentally racially insensitive. Like,
I'll say, for years, Newcastle captain Jamal Lascelles never had an accurate sprite. I don't know if he even has on this FIFA, I haven't seen him close up enough yet on it. But for years, it just looked like some other dark-skinned man had taken his place. Like,
you're suddenly going, is this GTA San Andreas? Like,
yeah. But I will point out, so if I move the topic away from football, because yeah, football's a big talking factor at the minute, I will say there are weird, the way different sports have reacted to this has been really fascinating to watch. So, for example, I'm a swimmer, and Swim England have outright, and it was only announced the other day, have outright cancelled every single event or competition until the end of the year.
Wow.
There is no, we will see how it's doing by January. Oh, well, January would be the end of the year. There's been no like, oh, we'll see how it's doing in October. You know what I mean? It has been, we are outright cancelling it. See you next year. Let's see what we can do. They haven't said that you won't be able to return to pools to train in that time. That is a potential, and that is obviously something lots of swimmers are crossing their fingers and hoping they will get in for.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of competitions, there will be nothing until January at the earliest. And I think that's really fascinating, because of all the sports in which you're fairly safe, swimming is a fairly safe sport once you actually get into it. It's all the facilities that you need to use around the sport,
I mean, the thing is
puts people at risk.
You could do it even with the pool of either have a lane in between and then just do everybody's times, so that the events are less about like the speed against each other and the times, because obviously the shorter the time the better you do. Like that's also how you could measure it. And so yes, it would be longer for the people who were judging it to kind of like sit down, but
absolutely
it's not that hard. Like there's a way around it. I just thought, isn't cricket already social distancing?
Oh, hell yeah, there's no reason for cricket to be stopping. They are like, they are never within touching distance of each other.
I was going to say, like, if they are, it's like for less than 2 seconds. Like, in an entire, like, 3 hours you can sit out in the sun and get hammered?
Yeah.
You know?
I'll say, like, as well, again, I think the onus has to be on athletes being tested by the respective leagues. And I can understand leagues and bodies and whatever not wanting to pay exorbitant amounts to test players and would rather just keep them out altogether because it could bankrupt the league. Like the Premier League, I think, is paying something like £30 million a month to, and I might be wrong on that, I would have to fact check, but they are paying an extortionate amount of money every month to test all the players, club staff, and officials who would be involved with making the game run, to ensure that they are getting regularly tested to make sure that none of them are playing. And I think something like 9 players and staff have shown up since the return to training because of these tests, have shown up as coronavirus positive and have been sent off to isolate. And clearly that's the best way to go about doing it. And I mean, I know until we have a cure, there's always going to be positive tests, and you can't guarantee that anybody doesn't have it. But regular testing in both sport and society is surely the way to go forward. And the fact that it's still such a hard thing to do is beyond, well, at least in this country, is baffling to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's there's so much of this where it's like you can see the solution in one regard, and then at the same time it's just not being done. But I'm thinking as well, do you think people are going to be getting into like watching golf more now and F1? Because I mean, those are
I don't
pretty much...
think there is a virus on Earth that could get me to watch golf or F1.
I just thought, because like, those are the ones that you definitely can't stop. Like, they are not... If you are not social distancing in F1, you have greater problems in one regard than COVID, because you have a steering wheel through your torso. Like, you're in a problem.
I think the whole social distancing measures in F1 would make the race a whole lot more interesting, because as far as I can tell, the only reason to social distance during F1 would be for the pit teams for repairing the cars. But to me, that just says that you should have an F1 race and it's just last man standing. Whoever's car doesn't blow up
that is good.
Wins.
Have you seen there was just when this all broke out really, the barbers who basically were using their tools taped to like broom handles and stuff. Yeah, well, now I'm thinking, what about an F1 race where the pit crew have to do that?
The pit crew have to use all their tools attached to 6-foot-long bowls.
Exactly, because I mean, you're gonna drop one of those screws. How do you do that?
You just have to have a really long pair of pliers.
Yeah, like you're sat there, like you could be doing so well, and you've bought like such a massive margin, and then your pit crew guy loses like the nut that he's got to try and like put on, and you're watching him fumble for like 3 straight minutes, and it would just be, because it would then just like there would be such a difference to the skill level. I think you'd be able to watch like documentaries of them getting used to like doing all these with like a 6-foot pole. I just think that'd be great.
I want to really pick your brain on the real controversy. Well, what should be a controversy and isn't getting talked about enough in terms of sports and coronavirus.
Okay.
And that is the wonderful world of professional wrestling.
Oh, right. Well, I mean, you can't social distance in wrestling. I've got to be honest, it's kind of the point. Like,
not only can you not socially distance in it, it depends. So all independent levels, so those at the lower level shows, have been cancelled. There's no one running them. There's no one crazy enough to try and run them, because at that level, your main income is the fans in attendance, and no one can get away with getting fans in attendance in this current lockdown.
Yeah.
All lower level shows are cancelled. Great, that's fine. However, there are 2 promotions still running shows.
Okay.
That is All Elite Wrestling and WWE.
Right.
So, the way they are getting about this is both shows are owned by billionaires. WWE, owned by the infamous Vince McMahon, and AEW is being owned by the Khan family, mainly Tony Khan. And
is he related to Scott Khan from Hawaii Five-0 in any way, shape, or form?
So what they are doing is they have empty arenas, whether it be, so WWE uses their performance center out of Orlando,
right?
And AEW have bounced around the country a little bit using different venues where they've had access to.
Right.
So sometimes they will film a great big clump of shows at one person's training center, and then they will move. And their most recent pay-per-view happened at the Jaguars football stadium in whatever state the Jaguars are from. I don't care. I think it's Jacksonville.
Yeah. I was going to say that Jacksonville's like Tennessee.
Yeah, something like that. So they use that arena. The difference is AEW are working on using basically a limited performer list. So they are testing, I think, as far as I'm aware, they are testing performers. They are keeping as few people involved as possible. They are using as small a roster as possible. So most people, if they aren't available to be used, are just being told stay at home, getting paid, and just staying away. And so they're usually using the same people just about on every show in a different way, and effectively trying to keep that spread. So even if one of them did catch it and spread it, they would spread it to a smaller part of the roster as possible.
Yeah.
Then we have the contrasting the contrasting solution of the WWE. So they made headlines for the way they ran WrestleMania, which was they too have been doing it in an empty arena with no crowd, and it has been haunting to watch wrestlers cut promos to nobody as if they were actually talking to a crowd full of people.
I want to see this now. I will have to, once this show is over, watch this because it sounds
I will send you
wonderfully
clips.
Terrible.
Now, here's the thing. The controversy comes from Vince McMahon's attitude to the issue of coronavirus. He has, for a long time, been accused of being out of touch with the wider world, and he doesn't really pay attention to it because it's not part of his plans.
Right.
And right now, he has not got any coronavirus testing happening for his athletes. He is having them showing up. I think they might be doing a temperature test, but otherwise, he is.
It's not even like a thermometer. It's just him like putting the back of his hand on their forehead and going, I think it's all right. It's like...
Pretty much. And so, what he has been accused of doing as well is he has been accused of forcing people to show up to work amidst the lockdown. The company as a whole was accused of bribing Florida officials to give them status as effectively key workers to allow them to continue filming. And he effectively has been accused by staff on public record as making them show up to work in amidst the lockdown. So there's been staff saying, we don't want to work right now. We are scared of getting the virus, and we are scared that if we say no, that we will lose our jobs.
Wow, what a fun time for them.
There was even their top superstar, Roman Reigns, their absolute top boy, top dog. You don't get the joke there, but he keeps calling himself a dog. Anyway.
Okay, right. Okay, so now you've filled in the audience as well, because I don't think there's masses of my audience.
I'll keep the context there. So, he had recently come off a battle with leukemia. He had been in remission with it because he had caught it in, I want to say college, I might be wrong there. But he had it in the past.
more developed rather than caught.
He had gone in remission.
Yeah.
And he recently had a second bout of it and went off to get treatment and came back and was lauded as a hero and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And when the coronavirus issue in America started getting serious, he basically told the company, I will not be showing up again until this virus is sorted.
Well, no, he's too high risk. Like
the man's got leukemia.
Yeah.
Instead of telling people, because he was meant to be in the main event of WrestleMania. He was meant to be in the big match, the big storyline. And instead of telling people, hey, he's got leukemia, we can't risk it, and treating him as the hero that he should be described as, the company has refused outright to talk about him.
Wow.
People aren't allowed to mention his name on a TV show again. He isn't being talked about. They didn't talk about him being replaced in his match. They just silently changed the competitor to a different wrestler. And he is just, it's like he never existed. They just don't talk about him.
That is unbelievable. That's absolutely awful.
Yeah, it is absolutely wild, the WWE's reaction to this virus. And I'm amazed because a lot of the controversy in terms of sports and entertainment at the minute has been about whether the Premier League is doing the right thing or football leagues are doing the right thing by returning. And here you have professional wrestlers who are literally being forced to work and being threatened with their jobs if they don't, and aren't getting adequate testing.
Well, I mean, as well, right? And I know this is the same as the FIFA thing, but WWE paid for a video game every year. They have a video game come out every year. Just Do it that way.
I would pay to watch an episode of Raw, which was all played by the wrestlers playing their characters in the games and just watching the reactions when reality starts to break apart.
Well,
When
yeah,
the
yeah.
glitches
I
kick
mean,
in.
I've played them, and they are so very broken games. And I mean, at the very least, then they would kind of like go, okay, maybe we start having a conversation with 2K, like I said about EA. But
God
it's
knows, yeah.
just, it's just unbelievable. If you have the money to pay for that, just use that instead. You
Yeah.
could do it all that way.
There was a lot of kickoff about the UFC as well. The UFC recently held their UFC 249, I want to say it was.
Okay.
And they caught a lot of heat for trying to push forward the event. They had made an agreement with the Native American tribe or something like that, where basically they owned land outside of California, I want to say,
All right.
which wasn't governed by state law like other places because it was a Native American reservation.
Yeah.
And they had come to an agreement with this Native American group to film UFC on their settlement, probably for a large amount of money. So that,
Yeah, as you would.
because at the time, California had a total lockdown rule in. It was one of the first states to do it. So rather than obey the lockdown, UFC made this agreement to continue on with the fights, and were only stopped when the head of Disney, who is obviously Disney owns ESPN, which
Yeah.
broadcasts UFC, stepped
Mickey
in
Mouse
and
himself
said,
stepped in.
"No way." It has since happened. I believe, I can't remember where they used, but like the wrestling, they used an empty arena. Commentators were socially distant. Fighters were all given thorough testing before they got in the ring. They were only allowed one cornerman in the ring with them. So the fighters and their cornermen were tested and were, for the most part, socially distanced. No fans, socially distanced commentators, and fighters were, because of the obvious, kept apart backstage. And that seems to be the right way to do, close contact sports is,
Yeah.
crucially, in-depth testing and social distancing when they're not competing. And I think that can be applied across a wide spectrum of sports.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it seems a bit like a no-brainer in one sense, and you kind of think, hang on, if we as two people who can like literally just sit and make this as a live stream midday on a Saturday can kind of like come up with where some of these things can be fixed, how are the people who are paid billions like not getting this? Like, it's...
Well, I think that's a crucial part there is billions, and money talks. I think money does talk a lot, and when it comes down to it, testing isn't cheap. And I think there's a lot of sports which would rather just either cancel it outright, or if they're not going to cancel it, I think they would rather just not pay for the testing.
That's and that's just really abhorrent, if I'm honest. Like, why wouldn't you want to actually make sure that your like staff are safe? I mean, that's the important thing. But then, not to get too uppity about the government in this segment, but because we're talking about sport, but the fact that the Tories were saying, "Oh, we're not going back to war, going back to work, but we're going to send in school children," like that doesn't make a lot of sense. And so it just seems to be that's. I really hope that this means we kind of like reconsider how we run things, I guess.
I do think in the not too distant future on the show, we can talk about what the new normal will be in terms of society at large rather than just in sports, because I think that's a really important point, is that I think across the board, this virus is going to change the systems and way we think about work for the long term, whether that's for better or worse.
Yeah. I mean, I totally get that, but I think now it is time for another piece of music, and the track that is coming up, it is very linked, it is very topical because of my lovely birthday that happened during this lockdown, and that track is The Bad Side of 25 by Patrick Stump. So here we go.
It's a sub-zero archaeological dig to find that artifact of a car. It's a 1992 Corolla with a busted left taillight, but you're always reminded the oil one works right. No, and all the good old boys are playing bad news songs on the country station while the city moves on. The hot young things, they don't age like wine. I'm on the bad side of 25. I'm on the bad side of 25. Yeah. So you swivel out the driveway of this Tundra you call home, and bumper car your way on back to work. It's a place you hate to know so well, and yet feel so unknown. So you hula the snow off your parker all alone. When I see my air supply your hard rock spine, I've lived long enough to see some good friends die. It's a dangerous time to be a friend of mine. I'm on the bad side of 25. I'm on the bad side of 25. Some people fade like evening, some just never go away. But there's simply no place safer than the bank the day after the robbery. So you wait to grab the paper, sip your coffee, too much grind. You don't so much mind the agent, you just mind it getting wise. It's two parts Jack with two bloodshot eyes, and you still feel cheated when your buzz subsides. But you pour our parents through some sleepless nights, still on the good side. Oh, still on the good side. How old will I be when I try to freeze time, and my age degrades into a well-worn lie? She looks 18 between you and I'm on the bad side of 25. My line till I slide by 35. Ain't that the bad side of 45? Yeah. bedside, my bedside, my bedside. Hold up in the bathroom minute, trying to see myself from a broken man wishing. Focus on my love, but it's you I'm really missing. Cause every song I wrote it all for you, but I can't seem to find myself in you. Baby, no, no, baby, no, no, no. Two things, I still hate you, but I really can't think. Yeah. Funny how I don't remember what all of my things are now. I'm trying to forget, yeah, I'm sorry. I don't even know how I got here. Said I only wanna be somebody. Said I only wanna be your baby. I've been thinking all about your body. Oh, I'm not sure. Said I only wanna be somebody. Said I only wanna be your baby. I've been thinking all about your body. Oh, I'm not sure. Cause you love something in your phone, and it's not something in your nose. So you text me, tell me it's wrong. You said come but just on your own. Then you changed your mind and said no. Well, the flowers tend to get old. If it is what it is, then I'll go. Maybe you just come to my show. Cause I know it ain't you, yeah. 14 hours on the plane, cause I know it ain't you. Sunsets on the other side, cause I know it ain't true, yeah. No top with the same jeans, cause I know it ain't true. What the hell are we do? You can't find the time, and I could only tell you. You could only tell me things that make you feel important. You keep doing things that I cannot complain of. If only it was better than the first one that you came with. Said I only wanna be somebody. Said I only wanna be your baby. I've been thinking all about your body. Oh, I'm not sure. Said I only wanna be somebody. Said I only wanna be your baby. I've been thinking all about your body. Oh, I'm not sure. Said I only wanna be somebody. Said I only wanna be your baby. I've been thinking all about your body. Oh, I'm not sure. Said I only wanna be somebody. Said I only wanna be your baby. I've been thinking all about your body. Oh, I'm not sure.
And that was No Rome with Pink as well. Thought I'd chuck in a little spicy extra for you. So we are back. Hi, Nick. How you doing?
Oh, you know, not too bad.
Just wanted to make
it
sure
is
that you
kind of
hadn't
mad.
just-
I've just been scrolling Twitter during that break and the songs there just to see what's going on.
And anything new? Anything just...
I was gonna say, I've just sent you this tweet on Twitter. Did you see the issue going on in New York with the bus drivers and the prisoners?
Yes, I have. Hopefully they are protected still by a union, so that will massively benefit them to not obviously get, bullied out of standing by what they do, because, I mean, it's incredible what they've been doing. Hopefully they manage to, basically keep that up and be able to make their stands, really. Oh, that's awesome. What about you? What did you think? I realized.
I think so. Just for some wider context for the people watching, what it was it was a case where bus drivers in New York were being not even recruited, basically being commandeered to transport protesters who had been arrested, and there were cases of bus drivers leaving their vehicles and refusing to transport them. And I just think that is a great and very bold move by these drivers, because obviously freedom to protest and freedom to make your voice heard is such an important thing in any democracy. So it is such an empowering thing to see happen. As you said, hopefully they'll be protected by their bosses and by their unions, and hopefully it'll mean that these guys can take a stand without getting any backlash against themselves.
Absolutely. I mean, I've compiled a little bit of footage that I've found through Twitter and that kind of thing, which I'll probably share a little link for with regards to, so that people can actually have a look at it. It'll be in the comments of this live stream, just to make things easier. Really, I just thought it would be beneficial. But I mean, I've been seeing some other stuff really. Have you seen about so back when it first all of this started? There was an FBI fit test happening. It was an app released so that people could kind of keep up to FBI levels of fitness, and honestly, some of it is the permissions it requested is. So I'll read the tweet as it absolutely says. So, Monday motivation. Are you looking for tips for indoor workouts? Download the FBI's physical fitness test app to learn the proper forms and exercises that you can do at home, like push-ups and sit-ups, right? And the permissions that it requests are location of access, precise location, GPS and network-based, and access to approximate location, network-based, storage, modify or delete the contents of your SD card, read the contents of your SD card, and the other ones are control vibration, have full network access, view network connections, prevent phone from sleeping, play install referrer API, view Wi-Fi connections, receive data from internet, and read Google service configuration. That is the most invasion of privacy-ish thing.
It's almost as bad as TikTok.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, who do you want to know your information, basically? TikTok or the FBI?
The Chinese government and the American government, take your pick. If they're gonna, either way, they're going to get access to it.
Well, I mean, the Chinese government, it's going to take more of an effort if you are in the States for them to kill you without it being considered an international act of aggression. The FBI can just remove you from any country you're in, and that's fine. I mean, look at Cuba and all the past, but that's the CIA as well. But it's all the same. But yeah, I read that and I was like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever read about them thinking, oh yeah, well nobody will ever, kind of make a big deal about that. That would be strange. It was just one of the weirdest things I've read, really.
Oh yeah. I mean, let's be honest. If you're gonna give the FBI access to your phone through an app, that's how it. Hey, the FBI's put out a free app. Who wouldn't think that it wasn't going to try and harvest your personal details?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
It was the most transparent. We are going to steal your data and see where you are at all times. Rather than anything else that you could have done, and I truly, in one sense, admire it because it was so ballsy,
so brazen,
but it was so stupid at the same time. But as well, we've obviously been hearing that a lot of social media, companies could be facing threats of shutdown from the president, which is unbelievable. Have you been hearing about this?
Yeah, it's just yet another in a long line of very terrifying things Donald Trump wants to do, isn't it?
Yep. Well, I will fill in the audience. Basically, he threatened Twitter with the idea of him, of shutting them down because he didn't like that they were fact-checking him, basically. Which is possibly the strangest thing I've heard about this. And I don't understand why, anybody in his cabinet went, yeah, that's fine. That's a reasonable thing to say. And apparently as well, he came out and said he feels so victimized that he may just delete his Twitter account.
Oh no, please,
yeah, I know.
No, stop. Don't do that.
But then again, because people came back at him through the lies he was sharing about COVID, but at the same time, when he said about the protests, when the looting starts, the shooting starts.
Which is taken from a very old racist quote as well. So,
Oh yeah, what's the person the quote is actually from? Because I actually haven't heard that bit, but
I'm gonna quickly Google that.
But it's such an odd thing that he's going, oh no, I'm the victim. And when he said something like, oh, no president has been targeted as much as me, and then you're the guy who came up with a conspiracy theory about the previous president and tried to get him out of office. Have you not thought all of your thoughts through?
It looks like it came from a political advisor in the 60s. I can't remember who.
Well, I mean, to be honest, they were all racist then, pretty much. So
It goes back to the use. It was used by a white police chief in the 60s.
Oh, goody. Well, that's...
Racist white Miami police chief named Walter Headley.
Great. Oh, that's wonderfully horrible. Yeah, that's... Oh dear. The more you think about that, the worse it kind of gets. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and find some lighter news, because I did find something. I just have to find it. It's on here somewhere. I've put it somewhere. No.
Just to keep it on the dark side of things until you find some lighter news. The guy that Trump was quoting served as Miami's police chief for 20 years and was 62 in 1967.
Wow.
His policies were seen as aggressive in the city's black neighborhoods and led to violence in the city during the late 1960s. He favored tactics that included shotguns, dogs, and a get tough policy.
Right. Well, those are all depressing. So I have found some...
early December, he declared a war on crime and said his primary target was young black males from 15 to 21.
Wow.
And that is who the leader of the free world is basing his tweets on.
Wow. So to drag us out of this, because I have found it, and it is the strangest item I've ever heard of, right? It's called a testicuzzi.
Right.
Do you have any idea, solely by that, what it could be about?
A jacuzzi for your testes.
Absolutely right.
I love it when I'm right.
Yeah. So the weirdest part is as well, and I will do this. I will put it on the actual screen for our viewers so they can see what this looks like. It comes in different colours. Okay, that's one thing. But at the same time, it's honestly the strangest thing I've ever looked at. I'm 100% sure because the image I've shown is the actual item rather than like somebody using it. So don't worry, this is completely safe for work. Not that anybody's at work. It's Saturday, and the only people at work is us, really. But yeah. So, basically, I think it was because people were like, well, you have jacuzzis for your hands, for your body, for your feet, and you know what? Why not? Why not do it for your balls? And apparently, you can pre-order these now. This is, the concept was launched on Kickstarter about a month ago or something, right? This is what the article says, and is still in the process of acquiring funds to make it a reality. You can pre-order it now and expect to receive it by December 10th. So there you go, everybody. The perfect Christmas present for that one mate you have who won't stop talking about his balls and how they're stressed.
Yeah, that's definitely a present for you.
Exactly. And so apparently it gets so much funnier. You can get the white and the jet black editions that retail at $39.95. So it's an expensive Christmas gift. However, the one on the right of the screen is the 14 karat gold plated one that is 10 grand. you're spending 10 grand, which you can buy a car for, like an all right car, right? You can't
better than all right. You can get a good car for 10 grand.
Yeah, like you can get a pretty damn good motorbike for that.
You could put down a deposit on a house for that.
And somebody might spend it on a jacuzzi for their balls.
This is why capitalism is a cursed thing.
Well, exactly. I mean, the funniest thing is people say it rewards innovation. It rewards, like, creativity. I'm sorry, but I am not spending 10 grand so some guy can make something for balls. Just apply E45 like normal people. Like, that's all it takes. Like... Honestly, so that is one of the weirder items I've I've read about this week. But there is also have you seen the Denny's advert?
I haven't.
The Denny's advert is hilarious. So the thing is, and I'm gonna do as well. I'm gonna put this on the screen so people can see it. The Denny's advert is basically a way of presenting how times have changed over 60 years, because, you know, you'd have thought they would. And this advert is apparently annoying the life out of racists. Now, I've looked at this image 100 times, and I still cannot figure out what it is. You know, some people are wonderfully reading it as wholesome and saying, what a cute family, the two dads look so happy. But there are people who were like saying that, you know, they were saying that, like, Denny's is supporting white genocide. Now, if anybody isn't aware what white genocide is, okay, it is a fringe conspiracy theory about the idea that people not being mega racist and white supremacists means that white people are going to die out, basically, because the genes are impure, quote unquote. And it's unbelievable that you would get that from this Denny's advert that's about milkshakes and breakfast food.
I mean, the thing to me is it looks like the white family has the nicer house. So to me, I feel like that's racist in a completely different way.
Yeah, like why is their version of Denny's really posh? Like,
and your one's quite working class.
Yeah, spot the gentrified area. And I will read as well. Going back to the Testacuzzi, just for 2 seconds. My mum has sent me a message that has said, "Well, that's your brother's Christmas present sorted." So, sorry, Sam, we may have spoiled your Christmas present, but I thought the audience would want to know about this too.
He should be clicking his heels together, waiting.
Wait, what? Has this become the Wizard of Oz?
Oh yes.
Go back. Oh my word! I'm trying to see this next article. Right. So this is from the Guardians of Democracy. This is the most insane story I've read in a while. Basically, a bunch of MAGA type guys, right, are aiming handguns at their own dicks.
Okay, yeah, I saw this. Can you give me some context for that?
So, okay, so basically, it's because like they've taken the safeties off, right? They're pointing it. Their thumb is on the trigger. Everything is ready to go, and it's to own this concept that guns are inherently dangerous. Which, I mean, you've built a thing that its sole thing is extinguishing human life. So, you know, but yeah, it's it's also apparently it's done the exact opposite. It has upset people who believe that trigger discipline is important. So like the type of people who are like, why would you do this? You know, you're making gun owners look stupid. And it's like, well, yes, that is absolutely what you're doing. Like,
a lot of gun owners I have like heard talk on podcasts and stuff like that who acknowledge the inherent dangers of owning a gun, and how they were brought up around them and always taught trigger discipline and trigger safety. And I can see why it would upset these people, because like these are the guys who are responsibly owning guns and who the rest of the carnies out there are making look totally stupid.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's the most bizarre and insane thing that you could look at. These people, because essentially, like, I don't know how much it takes to pull a gun, like an actual gun trigger. Okay, I will admit, I will put my hand up and say, the most I have fired in my entire life is an air rifle. However, from what I've understood, if you are fairly used to it, okay, pulling a trigger for a gun is quite easy because your body has just gotten used to it. So
yeah.
You could potentially be one sneeze away from exploding your genitals.
Yeah.
Like,
look,
what is going on?
And it's baffling because I saw that and I didn't get, like, I've seen pictures and I didn't get the context behind it. Why on earth? Who doesn't think guns are dangerous?
Well, I mean, the people who want to keep, like, 18 assault rifles just in case they want to overthrow the government. Which, honestly, which links to an amazing tweet that I read, that was, like, it was around about the time of the last major shooting that happened in America, and people were calling for gun control. And this guy basically said, when you like boiled it down, basically what he said was, I want to be able to keep my guns so that if I want to take over a plane and take my sick child to somewhere where there is social health care, then that's what I want to do. And it's like, that shouldn't be your basis for being able to keep a gun. That's not a responsible gun owner, that's a terrorist.
No, that's just an argument for social healthcare. Yeah,
just have social healthcare and put the guns away. Like, you shouldn't have to say, oh yeah, just in case I want to hijack a plane.
Here's the thing, I'm about 90% sure. Let's assume, because the argument for keeping guns is the idea that they are going to be able to fight the government if the government turns tyrannical.
Yes.
Bold idea, bold choice there. But I am 90% sure, first of all, the American military has tanks.
Yeah.
Last I checked, there are very few private American citizens who own a tank.
There is actually such a surplus of tanks and armored vehicles that go into the military in America. I watched a little documentary about this, to the point in which, like, they have so much they can't use them, and so they talk about elephant graveyards of, like, you know, planes and everything that they just can't use because they don't have the staff for it, or they don't have the money to keep them in the air. So what they do is eventually sell them to police forces, which is absolutely insane. And when, you know, there are concerns about police forces, and some people are concerned in this country about what seems to be the way we are mimicking the police of America in certain circumstances of militarizing our police. When you see that they, like, if a police station wants to buy a tank, they can just go to an auction and buy a tank. There is nothing stopping them. There is no legal problem with that, really.
Here's the thing. As far as I'm concerned, modern tanks, for the most part, I'm not an expert in military, I'm not an expert in warfare, but I'm 90% sure that the only thing that's going to stop a tank is an airstrike.
Yeah, so maybe an RPG or two.
Ideas of, like, oh, I need my gun in case the government gets tyrannical. I don't care how many guns you have. I'm 90% sure one man in a tank could probably topple all of Oklahoma.
Well, did you
Like,
see the
It'll
guy?
take a while, but
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, as well though, you can with like an RPG basically. I think you probably could take down a tank, maybe 2 shots. You know, I would assume an RPG is good for that. But did you see about the guy who was in the subway, like the Subway sandwich shop, with this missile launcher on his back?
no.
Yeah, during all this, or was it just before COVID? This guy was just stood in Subway, ordering a sandwich with this rocket launcher slung across his back, and
No,
like,
you've got to protect your kids from Jared, but that seems a step too far.
well, exactly. Like, I mean, it was like people were like, "Oh, well, it's open carry laws, like it's fine, it's legal," and it's like, right, that at a stretch hits an assault rifle. What?
Yeah, there's plenty of things that are legal, but that doesn't mean you should do them.
Yeah, I mean, like I can understand, right? If you are a very open carry person and you're quite anxious, I can understand a handgun, okay? Because any
Yeah.
situation that a regular human being is going to be in, that might bring you a feeling of safety. I mean, that is my furthest guns are okay stance. But there is not a situation where you need a rocket launcher.
Yeah.
There just isn't.
Unless the military is going to try and take over your state in a tank.
But then,
But to be honest, if they have
then
2
don't
tanks, you're
care
screwed.
about your open carry laws about the missile launcher. And if anything, I think if I was a government going to be tyrannical, right, and I knew that there were gun stores that were selling RPGs, right, and I'm thinking, those RPGs could be used to take out my tanks so that I can't control my people. What I'll do is I will find the registered people, because obviously all these people are saying, well, I bought my gun legally, blah, blah, blah. Like, there's a register of that firearm because they can track it. That's how it works. You know, you only really get the ones that aren't tracked from, like, black market and shady dealings, and those aren't the people you kind of want to be. You're not going to be going, oh, yeah, my gun rights are, like, protected by the state because I bought it from, like, Cambodia, like, filed the serial number off, hid it in my bag, and brought it home. Like, it's not, you know, it's not how you work. So they're gonna find the missile launcher. So even in that circumstance, it's not gonna work. I just don't get it.
Oh, gun laws in the States, man. What you can... I feel like the rest of the world looks at America like that cousin who's gone off the rails a little bit. It's like, oh, what we're going to do with them?
But I mean, I still find it one of the funniest things was, like, I watched, and by the way, now my Facebook videos suggestions are so in the toilet because of this, because I really like watching through the right-wing talking points to see what they're kind of, like, going with, especially with narratives where it's like, no, seriously, Trump is, like, kind of awful, or no, maybe a school shouldn't have been shot up. For some reason, they always have a way of, like, twisting it to make it sound good, and so sometimes it's interesting to listen to about, like, how much of a spin doctor routine can you do, basically. And
yeah.
So now my suggestions are all in the toilet because of this. And basically, some people were like, you know, oh, Australia had a couple of, like, shootings, and then instead of giving more guns to their citizens, they, like, shut them all away. And it's like, well, yeah, because we find it viscerally offensive about the idea of children being shot. Maybe do something about it. Like, it's not that tough. So, yeah, that is... But
it's just baffling. It boggles the mind. I still believe firmly that America is... I find it weird because in any other like circumstance, when you discuss a state, you discuss a nation state, you discuss, like, a singular nation, not a group of, like, 51, 52, whatever it is in states. And I think it's shown because the attitudes towards these kind of things across America are so wildly different. And I think it really does show the difficulty in having a country built up of mini countries, which are often bigger than most European countries.
I was going to say, like, the EU grand total is reaching, so long as... I don't know if Russia is in the EU, but if you take them out, either way, you'll be reaching around about the size of America. Or at least, like each country could be a state. And that's if you're being very generous. You like really stretch the UK out, and then it might be Hawaii. But it just why not just say it is a continent and then they all kind of rule individually? That's because then you would have a very different outcome. I mean, I have a feeling that places like Tennessee and Texas would probably be dead within 6 weeks, solely because they would say, no, everything's fine, we're gonna, like, make all these dangerous stuff legal, we're gonna make all the healthcare stuff illegal or as expensive as possible. What do you mean everybody shot each other within 6 minutes? Like, that's all I can see about it, really.
Yeah. It would turn into the literal Wild West.
I mean, yeah. I mean, well, actually, it would be like a literal battle royale. And whoever is stood on top of that wasteland would be considered the king, I guess? I mean, I don't know what... Actually, have you heard they're trying to push for a monarchy? Like they want, like, they are saying that monarchies are not terrible in, like, American right-wing think tanks.
That doesn't surprise me, but,
it's really funny. The same people who hold the American Constitution to, like, such a height are saying, oh boy, aren't monarchies great? And it's like, I'm pretty sure that was the point, is that they weren't, like, a thing. But yeah, that is... Yeah, I mean, to be honest...
Democracy is often only appreciated when it goes in your own favour.
Well, yeah, I mean... I would like to say what quote is that, but then at the same time, I was going to say... episode 2, Anakin Skywalker says something very similar. So
pretty much.
And that's,
this today we'll just keep going back to episode 2.
It's like, I will probably have a number of people complain at me, but it is one of, like, the top, in my opinion. I really think it's a high-end movie compared to, if you look at it through a different lens and kind of, like, focus on how much it kind of pushes towards the later story. I think it's really good, and to be honest, it could have gone a lot of different ways if it had been made before the original trilogy, but that's that.
Oh yeah.
So I guess after that really nerdy conversation, I think we should probably do some more music, because people will probably get bored. So I've had a little request from my darling little brother to his lovely girlfriend to dedicate this song. It is Loving Is Easy by Rex Orange County.
Loving is easy, you have me fucked up. It used to be so hard to see. Yeah, loving is easy when everything's perfect. Please don't change a single little thing for me. Listen, girl, when you can't even hide it, and it didn't take forever to find it. I was all on my own, almost glad to be alone, until love came in on time, on time. So loving is easy, you have me fucked up. It used to be so hard to see. Yeah, loving is easy when everything's perfect. Please don't change a single little thing for me. Ooh, oh, oh. missing, girl, when you can't even hide it. And it didn't take forever to find it. I was all on my own, almost glad to be alone, until love came in on time, oh, on time. Loving is easy, you had me fucked up. It used to be so hard to see. Yeah, loving is easy when everything's perfect. Please don't change a single little thing for me.
And now, just to bring some lovely summer tunes your way, we've got two more. Frank Turner and the Gorillaz.
You're not as messed up as you think you are. Your self-absorption makes you messier. Just settle down and you would feel a whole lot better. Deep down, you're just like everybody else. She's not as pretty as she thinks she is. Just picture her after she's had kids. I bet she sits at home and listens to the Smiths. Deep down, she's just like everybody else. So why are you sat at home? You're not designed to be alone. You just got used to saying no. So get up and get down and get outside. 'Cause it's a lovely sunny day, but you hide yourself away. You've only got yourself to blame. Get up and get down and get outside. He's not as clever as he likes to think. He's just ambitious with his arguing. He's crap at dancing, yeah, and he can't hold his drink. Deep down, he's just like everybody else. I'm not as awesome as this song makes out. I'm angry, underweight, and sketching out. I'm building bonfires of my vanities and doubts to get warm, just like everybody else. So why are you sat at home? You're not designed to be alone. You just got used to saying no. So get up and get down and get outside. 'Cause it's a lovely sunny day, but you hide yourself
some isolation. 'Cause right now that's the ball where we be trained. And if you're coming back to find me, you better have good aim. Shoot it true, I need you in the pictures while I'm calling you. Calling you. I'm the lonely twin, the left hand. Reset myself and get back on track. I don't want this isolation. See the state I'm in now. Calling my hunter with the rifle. 'Cause right now that's the ball where we be chained. Shoot it true, I want you in the pictures while I'm calling you. Calling you. I'm the lonely twin, the left hand. Reset myself and get back on track. I don't want this isolation. See the state I'm in now. If I pick it up when I know that it's broken, do I put it on? Or do I head out onto the lonesome trail and let you go? I'm a lonely twin, the left hand. I don't want this isolation. See the state I'm in now. If I pick it up when I know that it's broken, do I put it on? Or do I head out onto the lonesome trail and let you go?
That was Gorillas with Humility, and we are back in with a little bit of talkie time for you during this time. So, I realised accidentally, actually, that track is is really prominent due to the fact that he chats about like not wanting to be in the isolation, and I genuinely didn't realise this because that album was brought out like a year ago, and I was just listening to it and went, oh, hang on, the words are just right there. That's amazing. So. Yeah, there you go. Maybe check
Very
out that
poignant.
album. Yeah, poignant. So, I read this Polygon article the other day, and this is actually like showing that the world is actually full of some really, really wonderful people. And a Fallout 76 community has rallied to support this guy who is called CJ Martin, right? And he's a doctor in the game who continues to show up at like all the really rubbish points where everything in the server goes like completely tits up, really. Like you've got blast zones, and he's setting up medical tents, and he's built like this massive RP server basically that promotes people making food and making resources and helping each other, which is really beautiful, obviously, in this kind of a time. Now, the article was beginning of May. Unfortunately, a fire broke out in his home, and he basically managed to get his wife and child to safety, but he suffered such serious burns he had to be airlifted to the hospital in Philadelphia, and he's getting treatment, and basically they set up a Kickstarter, like a GoFundMe for him, and they paid. It was over $4,000 worth of recovery fund had been donated by the time the article was published. I don't know if anything else added to it by that time, and it's now such a point that even Raider like this guy has had so much recognition before that guys who are role-playing as raiders and literally going in and stealing everything have protected him because he's just this nice. Like, and
amazing.
Yeah, and it's really, like, of everything that happened in Fallout 76, that is possibly the nicest thing to hear, if I'm honest. And so I just thought I'd share that lovely story because I thought, but, you know, everybody, like, bags on Fallout 76, but it really seems to have kind of brought out some really good people in those regards, which is nice. It's exactly what we want. I mean, I was hoping to be a toaster salesman, but I never found a sir that was RPing hard enough. I just wanted to go around collecting up toasters and saying, "Do you want the Toastmaster 7000? It'll cook." Like it will make the most carcinogenic toast, but it will be like toast in 30 milliseconds. Like, so yeah, that was kind of what I was after, but I never got that opportunity. But it's good to see that people got to actually enjoy that and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Speaking of good things happening for good people, have you heard the latest movie news?
Latest movie news? No.
The Zack Snyder cut.
Yeah. I actually have heard about this. Yes. I'm really enjoying this because I'm not saying, you know, people who enjoy the MCU are bad. Before I go into this, I'm gonna say that. However, a lot of people who, you know, are big onto the Reylo side of things, with who were really satisfied that that got to be made canon, and the people who are really big on Tony Stark and everything, trying to get him back in and everything, just they've berated creators to a certain degree. And then suddenly the Zack Snyder cut is coming out, and those same people are like, "Oh my word, I can't believe it! Like, why are they bending to such rampant fan like outrage kind of thing?" And it's like, they just asked, like, they were just like, "We kind of like the movie, but we know it could have been better. Do you have anything?" And he was like, "Oh hey, yeah." So yeah.
The thing for me, and I'm gonna say right now, I don't like DC for the most part. I think, obviously, like everyone, I like Batman, but DC...
I've never been that much of a fan of Batman. I always much preferred of the rich, without powers characters that we all know and love. I much preferred Green Arrow every time.
Fair. But I was just going to say, I always found with DC go weird with superpowers. It's either they have nothing and they have to rely on their own, like, intelligence and wits and whatnot, or they are God.
Yeah.
Can do
there is no in between.
Killed. And for me, it's kind of, when it does come to superheroes, with the idea of them having superpowers, they often write them very lazily in terms of what they can and can't do. I find, like, Marvel is a bit better at writing nuances into the abilities and the, like, weaknesses of their heroes, which is why I find Marvel more interesting. But I don't understand why anyone wanted to see more of any of the recent DC movies. Like, to me, Justice League and Batman vs Superman were just unwatchable. I don't know. What do you see? Some kind of like redeeming quality to this that I'm missing?
I think it needed to have been given a bit more of a chance in my eyes. I think it really got kind of shafted by the want from the from like producers and that kind of thing who wanted to kind of like go, oh well, it's got to be like Marvel, and it's like, but it's not gonna be, is it? You know, you can't have that because they've done it differently and they've already done it now. So even if you do that, like, people are gonna go, oh, you're copying. You know, because everybody sounds like some child I went to school with. I just realised the voice. Yeah, it just doesn't, like, it was never going to work if they were following that kind of method. So many people were like, oh, yeah, well, you know, Suicide Squad is just trying to be Guardians of the Galaxy. And it's like, the moment you say that, you've painted the entire thing before you've had a chance to view it, basically.
I mean, the thing is, for me, they should have steered into the skid there. People were obviously going to compare them to Marvel. They were obviously going to compare it to Marvel Extended Universe. And when you do that, that's not a bad thing. Being compared to the most successful movie franchise of all time is not a bad thing to be compared to. Instead of trying to emulate and replicate their success, they decided to compete, and they weren't ready to because they didn't have the years of foundation building that Marvel did.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that's where corporate greed kind of like jumped in a massive way, because they were like, oh yeah, we want to have the success of that, but we don't want to have the risk. When, in fact, when they started the MCU, Chris Hemsworth was not really that known. Chris Evans had been in the last thing, you know, was the Fantastic Four, and the last major thing before that had been not another teen movie.
I mean, let's be honest, they made bold casting choices which paid off.
Yeah, and Robert Downey Jr., when they started that, was not a bankable person. They went, oh boy, he might be on all the cocaine again. Like, you're really having to like kind of juggle this person. So yeah, and
let's be honest as well, the characters they were using and dealing with were not the most popular characters ever. Like Iron Man. I mean, let's be honest, Iron Man was well liked among Marvel fans, but he didn't have massive mainstream appeal.
No.
Neither did likes of Thor, neither did the likes of the Guardians of the Galaxy. And rather than
you're talking to somebody though that comes from a family who have kind of loved Thor for a long time.
Yeah.
at different points. I mean, to be fair, personally, my favourite Thor is Beta Ray Bill, but that's just a different story entirely.
Oh dear.
Beta Ray Bill's incredible, okay? and the fact that we haven't seen him.
The point I'm making is that I think in terms of brand recognizability, in terms of characters that people really know and like know well, DC had Marvel beat for that. Like, if you look for some of the most notorious heroes and villains,
they were using characters there that had been done to death. Like, I mean, at least with the Iron Man kind of villains, I mean, if you look at like the villains that they used for the Iron Man movies, like the Mandarin, Obadiah Stane, and Whiplash, like those guys are big in the comics. But if those movies hadn't come out, and you asked anybody about those people, if you'd said, what do you think of when you think of Obadiah Stane? You'd have probably said, is that the new Tory minister? Like, I don't actually know. And
like
the Mandarin, you'd have gone, no, that's one of those racist villains from Thunderbirds. Like, you can't do that.
I thought that was a fruit.
Exactly. And Whiplash is probably just some kind of new gum or some kind of new drug. So, you know.
Yeah. And the thing for me is as well, when you look at it, that doesn't just go for Iron Man villains, it goes across the board. And for the most part, like even Thanos is one of the biggest names in pop culture now. And it's because they built him from the ground up rather than expecting everyone to know who he was. They introduced him slowly and kind of ingrained his character as the big bad of this cinematic universe, even though before even the first Avengers film, nobody had a clue who he was. When, meanwhile, DC has some of the most iconic characters and on both the sides of heroes and villains of all time.
you've got like Batman, Superman, Joker, Lex Luthor. You've got all these super recognizable characters, and nobody seems to know what to do with them, even though they've been done to death.
But then again, you can say the same about what the MCU did with Spider-Man. I mean, I love Spider-Man, I really do. But I have to say, my favourite rendition of him is Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Oh, okay, that's blown. Okay, let's hear the argument here.
Right, okay, so Amazing Spider-Man 1 was not good. It was not good. I will absolutely admit that, because it was so very much trying not to be the Sam Raimi movies, but
Which is a bad start, because the Sam Raimi movies were amazing.
And at the same time, it was like, how much can you redo Spider-Man's origin story that we haven't already seen in the Raimi movies and the cartoon in the 90s and every comic ever, because they keep circling round to him every so often. And so, like, eventually it was just, they were choking on their own tail, basically, and they couldn't figure themselves out. Now, when they went, okay, now Spider-Man is going to be, he's won a bit. He's had a bit of a win, and so here's him having a good time in life, and then he's trying to juggle. It was more about him trying to juggle his personal life as Peter Parker and being Spider-Man, which is the absolute pinnacle of what being Spider-Man is. And
yeah,
and when and as well, the villains weren't like just ham-fisted in as I felt they were in the MCU renditions. Like, the way those movies worked were, he accidentally caused some of them. Like, you know, Goblin wanted to be cured by his blood, and he said, no, I can't let you do that, because he learned that actually if he did that, he would kill him faster. But he can't explain that. He can't tell him, oh, by the way, it turns out it's a mutation in my blood, which will mean you will die. Because at that point, where do you go with that conversation? That is suddenly like a, no, I'm good for me, but if I do that to anyone else, they die around me. Like,
yeah,
you are essentially saying, I am an atom bomb, but people should keep considering me a hero and should hang out with me. Electro. Oh my word. Electro's story in that movie is just the most emotionally crippling. Like, I've got to be honest.
It's just a shame the character looked like total garbage.
But if you ignore like the CGI element, because obviously you can enjoy movies that have really rubbish CGI. Or at least I can. I mean, Gods of Egypt is incredible, but that's for a different reason. But it's like, if you remove that and you just look at like the emotional level of this guy who thought Spider-Man was the coolest guy in the world, he met his hero, and his hero said, "I need you." It is the ultimate thing about parasocial relationships, which is a massive problem we are having currently, that people believe they are owed certain things, that they deserve somebody's attention and all that kind of thing. And so that absolutely, I think, is the center of those of what that kind of story is, and I think that is why he is one of the best villains, and the way he was depicted was really good. And that's why Amazing Spider-Man 2 is the best Spider-Man movie, and I will not be taking any Twitter messages. Please don't at me.
No more questions. Thank you for your time.
That's my press conference. By the way, Sony, I am able to be hired at any given moment. No, but like, I feel like the way they built Spider-Man in the MCU really upset me, because he just became Tony Stark's lapdog, basically. And there was so much of it that was, well, why doesn't, like Homecoming, you'd spend the entire movie going, well, why doesn't Tony just do it? and there's no instance where this guy who is doing major terrorism and starting up something pretty big in his plans, right? He's a good villain as Vulture, because he starts small and then suddenly gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and he's using like alien weaponry to rob stuff and potentially soon kill people. And why is Iron Man not doing anything? His whole point is to just be an emotionally distant father. That's literally it. And that is a weak depiction of a character, unless you want to tell everybody that he is the villain. By the way, Tony Stark is the villain of the MCU.
Oh,
Done.
Alternative, it's a reflection on Tony's relationship with his father.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, I still think it shows Tony's selfishness instead of a reflection on his relationship with his father. Because if you then look at that, where there is a child that's not his, but he doesn't seem to care in a lot of ways about his safety, unless he can kind of lord it over somebody. He literally, right, in Civil War, brings a child into an armed combat situation. Okay? He has made a child soldier. That is a war crime. Later in said same movie, he fires upon a surrendered combatant. So that's also a war crime. But when it comes to Endgame, and this is spoilers for people who haven't seen Endgame, but by the way, Tony is the worst person ever. He flat out says, let's not go back in time and solve the problem before it happens. Instead, I want to keep my child here. She's 5. Right? Now, there is a solution there. Okay? You take the group and the 5-year-old to the past. She's 5. She's not in school yet.
Time travel doesn't work like that. But
that movie, genuinely, its time travel rules makes no sense. So honestly, because I watched it, and yes, I will admit, I watched it on a plane, but I watched it and I tried to pay attention to how the rules of that time travel work. It doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. They could have easily done that. It would have been an easier solution.
The idea for Marvel time travel is that once you time travel, the original reality doesn't change. It just creates a second string. And so in order to keep the reality from branching off, you have to effectively ensure that you go back and put back in place everything you have changed before you leave.
But they don't do that.
That is the whole idea with the Infinity Stones, is that they go to reclaim the Infinity Stones, and then Captain America goes back and puts them all back in place. And that is how, again, spoilers for Endgame, that's how Cap ends up getting his happy ending. And obviously, it's time travel. Time travel was the worst way they could go for Endgame for me personally. I think they could have been a lot more creative other than, let's go back in time. But I will defend Tony Stark to the death. And here's the deal. The entire series of Marvel movies, whenever they have involved Tony Stark, has always ended up revolving around the idea that Tony Stark is a selfish asshole, but he keeps sacrificing things for the greater good. So he has the world's most powerful weapons industry, and he realizes that is wrong and that is bad after his time in captivity. And so he gives up making tons of money for being not a man of peace, but trying to prevent there being weapons going in the hands of mercenaries. And yeah, sure, he should have been doing it all along, but at least he's had that come to faith moment. So he's given up his money, pretty much. And then he has his best friend turn on him and try and use money against him. He has to put down his own best friend for the greater good, and he loses his friends. And he has issues with Pepper. And although in the end he ends up marrying her, he has to keep putting his
work ahead of his relationship, and he keeps putting things up to the greater good rather than up for himself. And in Civil War, he is so haunted by nightmares, he is so haunted by this vision of the future that he has seen, that he is willing to do bad things in order to protect the people he loves, protect the people he cares about, protect the planet. And he sees this as vindication in Endgame to justify saying, hey, look, I was right, and guess what? I keep giving things up, and I keep giving things up. And now I've got my happy ending, and you guys want me to give that up as well. And I would say, on the whole Spider-Man front, I think Spider-Man is like the whole story of him being an absent father in the whole Spider-Man conflict is meant to reflect a learning experience for him and why he's so protective of his daughter. Because let's face it, he's, as far as like an adoptive father figure for Spider-Man, he's a very bad role model, but he's an amazing father to his daughter. And I would suggest that him losing Spider-Man, the person who he put in danger in the first place, was designed to be an arc which is followed into Endgame, where it goes, hey, he's learned from his experiences there, and he's not going to make the same mistakes with his child. I will defend Tony Stark to the death. Right or wrong.
You can spend the rest of your life doing that, mate, but I am not going to agree with that, especially because especially with the way, and I mean mainly the way they wrote Peter Parker being like hero worshipping Stark, is that there are times in comics and that kind of thing where he literally, because he later on becomes like his technology expands, he basically is able to be the next Stark Industries, and at one point buys back Tony's tower because he's gone bankrupt, because he's been an alcoholic again. And at that point, like, so then Peter falls from grace, basically. But Tony, instead of just doing the normal thing and saying, yeah, well, you got me out of a scrape, so I'll get you out of a scrape, like, he basically does this whole, like, weird behind your back trying to trick you into giving something up. And Peter literally spits in his face and says, I'd rather trust a goblin than a Stark. Like, that's a pretty big thing, since at this point 2 goblins have tried to kill him. Like,
yeah.
So, I mean, I think, like, the characterization of the way they did him was very, very poor, and I think that version of Peter Parker is the one we should have seen, and as well, they kind of nicked the introduction for Miles Morales and gave it to Peter, which is not great, because the original Miles Morales introduction is that Nick Fury takes him under his wing, and because Peter is gone and Stark is not involved in any way, so it's kind of, now we don't even have the comic depiction of his like start now for when Miles Morales eventually comes to a big screen, so other than Spider-Verse, which was amazing.
You know what I'm really disappointed by? What I was hoping for in Endgame?
What?
I was hoping for, and I can't remember a character name, but in Modern Marvel, there is basically a little girl who becomes the next kind of iteration of Iron Man.
Oh, Riri Williams.
Yeah, Riri Williams, that's it. And I was kind of almost hoping, when I saw Tony Stark had a young daughter, I know it would have been weird because, like, there's racial things in there, but
yeah.
I was almost hoping that we were going to see something along the lines of... Because especially early on when I heard some of the plot leaks from Endgame was going to be Tony Stark has a daughter, I was almost hoping for some kind of Riri Williams connection.
We're going Ironheart kind of thing.
Yeah.
I get that. But at the same time, you know, there's... I think there was a lot of things that should have gone better. I don't like the way they did Black Widow's death, because I feel like it was quite cheap.
I think they were forced into some very rash story choices because they were faced with the impending, like, Scarlett Johansson was like, she was like, my time's up, I'm leaving.
Yeah,
Same thing
but,
with
I mean,
Robert
you
Downey
do
Jr.
it- you
And
do
I
it
think
better
they
than
could
that.
have done some amazing thing with those characters over the long term. So I think, for example, the relationship between Iron Man and Peter Parker would have tremendously declined in the long term, and we would have probably seen that characterization of Spider-Man you wanted had Robert Downey Jr. stayed longer. And I think similarly, they would have been able to give Black Widow a better send-off if it wasn't limited to that one movie.
But I mean, even if you just have the same characters and the way they go change around, like you could have had Tony steps down and says, "I'm gonna privately bankroll the Avengers, but I've got my family and that's that." Okay, he survives, problem solved. Okay, then he still gets to play the hero, but at the same time gets to do anything else. I don't know if Mark Ruffalo's going to want to come back, so you could have actually had, a continuation. Although
I think Mark Ruffalo will be back. I don't know whether they're going to give for Hulk his own movie,
Yeah.
but I can see Mark Ruffalo playing some kind of role in a future either Guardians or even just mainstream Avengers movie. I can see him coming back because they've already set up for Grey Hulk. And
Well, I just
think
thought
they are
because
gonna...
they've burned out his arm, so he wasn't able to move it even in the funeral scene. So I mean, I have no idea if they're gonna fix that at some point. But I was just thinking then you could have had if he wasn't, then you could have had him and Black Widow go off and try their relationship and everything. And worst comes to the worst, right? She goes off, and you could even say they've gone off into space and doing something completely different, and they split up. And so they just don't see her because she just doesn't want to come back. That's that. She's had her time on that planet and done her thing, and so now she's going to go somewhere else. That would be interesting, because then you could do spin-offs and that kind of thing from there.
Here's the problem, though. If you leave the door open, these characters are still out in the universe. They just don't want to be involved. If you leave that door open, you will have fans demanding and expecting some kind of return, some kind of comeback.
Well, yeah,
And
but there's also talks about Robert Downey Jr. coming back, and he died.
I can only see him
did
coming back
really
as some kind of
badly.
hologram, and that will therefore see him back in a limited role.
But it's the fact that it doesn't matter. It's fiction. That's the thing. Fiction can do things that you just don't go with. I mean, for example, Star Wars, Admiral Akbar is on for half a frame or something. You barely see him and he's dead. You can just do that. You could have a mission of Black Widow and Captain Marvel go off on a mission, and you could do it as a sound file or something, and them say she didn't come back. And at that point you go, she did something. But the way Endgame worked, it was the fact that they did the whole funeral for Tony, and then they did nothing. Not even another mention about Black Widow. She's dead. That's that. That's weird to me.
I don't know. I honestly don't know the answer to that one. But I will say, who would you want to be the next big bad of the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
I want Norman Osborn, but before he becomes Green Goblin.
Interesting.
His entire deal as just Norman Osborn is he buys out Stark on several occasions. He cripples the Avengers in a lot of ways. He causes the events of... I think it is him and Von Doom cause the events of Siege, which means that is the comics version of when the place of Asgard is destroyed. And it's just... Yeah, I just think that would be good. But at the same time, if we're going to say comic storyline, how we end the next chunk, I would say War of the Realms is great. It's an absolutely amazing one. Or, we can't do Secret Empire anymore
because I mean the idea of American fascism taking a very American symbol of Captain America and turning it into something evil, you can't do now, because obviously Chris Evans has left as Captain America and that kind of thing. But
I have one name for you.
What?
Kang the Conqueror.
See, I think...
Let me tell you,
we've had a big space bard, though, and I think...
Here's the deal.
Yeah.
Kang works perfectly because Kang's whole deal is that he hates people using time travel. He doesn't like people messing with time unless it's him. And so the idea that Kang will have been sitting on his time ship out messing with space-time somewhere in the like somewhere far away, and he just sees this enormous blip coming from Earth, coming from the Avengers, messing with the timeline, and it's caught his attention. And they could treat Kang very similarly to the situation they gave Thanos, where they could build Kang up over multiple single hero movies, even give him one extra Avengers movie to really get his story developed before they go for a big Kang the Conqueror versus the Avengers storyline. And it would be such a great story just because it brings the potential. If Chris Evans decided he wanted to be back and doing something with the Avengers, suddenly Kang the Conqueror messing with time and screwing the Avengers around that way suddenly opens the possibility of bringing back Captain America. It brings back the possibility of bringing back Iron Man. It really opens a lot of doors for the MCU to bring back some real heavy hitters.
But the thing is it's comics. Like, you can do that with anything. I mean, Infinity Warps is one of my favorites. It's where the universe gets folded in on itself with the Infinity Stones, and so it merges stuff like you get the Soldier Supreme, which is a mix of Doctor Strange and Captain America, and it is a brilliantly bizarre storyline. And you have like Iron Hammer, which is Thor mixed with Iron Man. It's incredible, and like you can do any of those things as well to bring them back, and I think you could do those in quite a funny way, because you could play around with a merging of two heroes with Chris Evans if he wanted to come back, and they go, oh well, we've known you as Captain America, and it's like, oh well, in our timeline Captain America is dead. Like you could just play around with that. We've like, I feel like a lot of people who are big Marvel fans, and I'm not saying you in this regard, but I've seen it online, seem to feel like they've established a lot of rules, but they haven't really. It's comics. Anything can happen. There are segments where, you know, Peter Parker makes a deal with the devil to bring his aunt back, and they go back like 10 years worth of character development. Like, it's not that tough. You can do anything.
So I'm going to say as well, you can make any one movie for any one character, and you can give it whatever rating you want. What character do you give a movie to, and what rating do you make it?
That is a tough one.
I'll get the ball rolling. I am desperate to see a rated R Carnage movie. Like, you could have a lot of fun. It doesn't have to be a generic superhero movie, because obviously Carnage is a psycho, like literal psycho killer. Give him an R-rated horror movie where he's not even the main character. You can make that like a total like monster slasher fic, and it could be really, really entertaining in terms of what you can do with a comic movie. Similar with what they did with Joker, where the Joker movie, even though I haven't seen it yet, I know for a fact it isn't a generic superhero, supervillain movie. It is more of a drama, and it is more of a in-depth look. You could do there's so many characters where if you give it the right storytelling and the right rating, you could make a really, really interesting movie about it. And Carnage is one of those ones where I feel that could be a really great horror movie.
Well, I mean, I'm then going to use the Secret Warps one of Arachnite, because it is where you merge Spider-Man and Moon Knight, and it's fascinating the way that this story works, because Moon Knight has multiple personalities, and so like basically he's hearing all these voices in his head, and the way they did Split, for example, could be a very high inspiration for this kind of thing, but also mixed with what could be the jovial fun of a Spider-Man movie. So you could have this really, what could be quite fun but really jarring mix of tones, which can like really make something memorable, of where it can be like really fun and really happy-go-lucky, and then suddenly like really dark. And I think that would really play to, I think Sony Spider-Man would be more like with that rather than the MCU one, because it's just like a problem.
Oh,
really.
So if I was Sony, I would really be trying to distance myself from superhero movies. I know they've got the ability to make, like they have the rights to franchises and characters and stuff like that, but I think for a lot of film companies, trying to do a superhero movie at the minute is a poison chalice, because Marvel has done it so well that really trying to go toe-to-toe with them is going to cause a problem. And I think the Joker movie is such a good example of, here's how you can use those character like images and all that stuff, and make something completely different where you can be successful without having to compete with Marvel.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. But, I mean, we could talk about comics and comic movies for the rest of time. But I will kind of put forward the interview that I managed to get with the amazing Riotous Monks, and be able to play their next track. But everybody who is in the chat and watching, Nick is going to disappear for a little bit. So everybody say, bye, Nick. Bye, Nick.
Aren't you?
Okay.
Bye, guys.
So here is the Isolation Radio interview. I guess we'll start. So you guys have been making some incredible music, or at least the track I've heard that you've released as well is fantastic. And listening to you guys as Riotous Monks as well, fantastic work. And so I was mainly wondering, what's inspired the track, both musically and thematically, really?
Oh dear, where to start?
Yeah, we've it's one we've kind of had floating around for a while in various forms. I wrote the lyrics kind of around the whole time of like Brexit and Trump, 2016 era. So
yeah.
I think it just kind of felt like lyrically it's kind of meant as more kind of humorous and kind of dark way than just kind of straight nihilistic, but it's kind of a nice manifestation of all that sort of frustration and kind of feeling of helplessness, I guess.
Excellent. Were there any like bands that were kind of like a theme and like an influence, or was it just?
What would you say, Michael?
Yeah, with the song, basically, like it started life very early on, like sort of like 2016, 17, as like a sort of jam that me and Charlie had, where like Charlie had basically the main sort of chord that you hear, like chord sequence that you hear at the start of the song. And then like off the back of that, it just had a very slow gestation period of 2 years. And I feel like it's that thing where as the songs evolve, the world's changed so much that like, even in terms of stuff we listen to compared to when we were first making the song as to now, as the events that have inspired the lyrics to change, it's one of those things where, like, as I listen to the song myself, I can't even for the life of me pinpoint where half of it comes from, because we've lived with it that long that it's just become, like, representative of us as songwriters, whereas that, like, everything but the fucking kitchen sink is there. And,
yeah, I think
crazy, I couldn't put a finger on it.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to name like a couple of kind of main bands who I was kind of going for, I was listening to a lot of King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard at the time. I mean, I still am, but so I think it was trying to kind of capture that sort of energy. I think the chorus had something of a kind of Talking Heads kind of freak funk type feel to it. I was trying to get that kind of cross rhythmic guitar type sound going there, I think. And then I guess the kind of I guess you can kind of get that psychedelic vibe, which again was kind of, I guess a bit of the OCs, who me and Michael are both very big fans of. That definitely had
Very
a
nice,
lot.
quaint folk rock band.
That's incredible. So I was also wondering, are there any more tracks in the works at the moment, or is it just that one, or what have you got kind of working on at the moment?
We've accumulated a lot over the last 2 years that we kind of like. I think there's loads of things, especially with us working together with the Riotous Monks. Like, it's spread off to so many different places. There's like little tracks that we've had written over the years. So there's so much there, man. It's just there. Really, especially with lockdown, we only really finally found the time where we could really sit down and be like, right, we have no choice but to do this the way that we can with the resources that we have. I do think it was, especially feeling at the time being right, that it was like, whether we like it or not, this song just has to come screeching into being right now. So yeah, man, I'm hoping there's a lot to follow it. Far more hi-fi recording.
Yeah, we got quite lucky with that one. We kind of recorded the bulk of it in a sort of booze-fueled afternoon, around December time. So when this whole COVID
just the start of December.
Hadn't even bloody heard of the thing. So those were the days, weren't they? Like,
I bet we wish we were all back then.
We're back then, sweet innocent days.
I can't imagine how many people who are listening to this are going to be like, oh my word, if only I could go back to December of all times. Like,
remember when we were just worried about Brexit for a day? Oh, do you remember how that worked?
Oh, those were the days.
When was the last time Brexit was mentioned during all of this? That's something. So I mean, that's all the questions I have. Do you guys have any anything you want to chat about? Anything pressing massively, or any questions for other people to try and like reach out, or anything that you want them to kind of reach out about and that kind of thing?
Whoa, my brain is whirring with this right now.
Are you okay? Are you a bit drunk?
No, man, I'm not. I've been sat out in the sun all day though. So
so heat stroke might be it, right? Okay.
Well, I have vomited profusely for the last 7 hours. Nah, I'm down. I've not got heat stroke. That's actually something. It's a sunny weekend, guys. Top up your suntan lotion, because being sunburned is not fun. And no matter how, I have seen 3 people on Instagram complain about their sunburn. They were all older than me. So it proves, because that's all it takes nowadays, guys. 3 people saying something for it to be a widespread issue. Use your suntan lotion, because skin cancer is no joke.
That's very inspiring, Mike.
Expiring.
Expiring.
It's expiring. It is.
I, on the other hand, have had a couple of beers. I'm willing to admit. But
Can we just say that the time that you were listening to this, we are having this conversation on Friday night. Charlie is okay.
Yeah.
So
don't worry, it's not like Tuesday morning.
If at 12:30,
there's not like a job interview in 3 minutes. Like,
honestly, I'm not even sure I'm going to be awake at 12:30 tomorrow. So
that's reasonable. At the very least, you'll know that you've been on, and people will cherish that you've been there.
Indeed.
Yes.
So, do you guys have any social media platforms or anything that you'd want people to reach out to you? Maybe somewhere they can find more of your links for your music and all that kind of thing, or your names?
I have a few tracks, including the one that's presumably been played at some point during this.
It'll be played just after this interview, actually.
Okay, well, if you like it,
following.
Yeah, it's build up. This is.
If you like it, Charlie has 2 other songs.
Very, very different, actually. One of them is sort of weird, a kind of acoustic-y, psychedelic folk type thing, which Michael, bless his heart, he spent like the better part of 2 weeks just trying to mix.
Only 1 week. It was the longest week of my life. But I mixed and mastered it.
We must have sent it back and forth about 15 times before we were happy with the results. But
that's showbiz.
Indeed, it's a creative process, is it not? But yeah, you have Buddha Machine, is it, Michael?
Oh God, that is long gone. I do have a SoundCloud. I think it's the Buddha Machine, which I used to release some very experimental albums on. I have, for the good of the public, excised those albums down to some key tracks. So there's some really quite mad experimental things. I recorded a lot of them when I didn't really have a clue about what I was doing. So they're very charming in that way.
I'm going to be honest, I listened to all of them. I loved them. So
Oh, fair play, man. Thank you. They were just me. Like I was in a band prior to all of this that was far more of the indie mindset. And when I left that band, I'd met a lot of people through it who probably only really associated me with that thing. So I kind of wanted to freak them out a little bit by making some stuff which was a bit more out there, just to kind of say, you know, you've seen that side of me. Here's what I really want to do. And as you can tell, now that I'm in a band that I actually enjoy being in and actually have solid collaborators, I don't release anything anymore because I'm too busy having fun. I don't have to scare anyone anymore. But there's a few things I've had in the pipeline for a while that I'll hopefully be getting out. And if they do come out, they'll be on that particular SoundCloud account. Hopefully, The Riotous Monks, which you can find on Instagram under Riotous Monks and on Facebook under our full
do we post anything
title.
Anymore? We should really start.
We
that
don't
again.
post anything, but there will be stuff being posted soon because we're hoping to get some very, very wonderful documents of our songs out there.
I mean, hey, worst comes
in
to the worst.
professional-
It would be nice if you'd shared the invitation to the show by this point, because I mean, it's not like I'm not interviewing you currently.
I've dropped myself in it deep enough now to be completely obliged.
Good.
But I'm more than, more than happy. More than
Yeah.
happy to bless the airwaves with some horrendous
I'm gonna
cacophony.
I'm gonna have to be.
Disgusting.
I'm gonna have to plug the two other bands I'm in as well because I get around like that.
Charlie's a busy man, unlike me. So
Indeed.
come on.
First of all, No Fox, nice contemporary UK jazz. We have one single out on Spotify that inexplicably has 7,000 listens. I think we just got like super lucky and got on some playlists and things. So yeah, and then there's also Good Springs, which is ska punk. We also have a single out on Spotify. It doesn't have 7,000 listens, unfortunately, but you guys can help bolster that, I guess.
I mean, I love a bit of ska punk, so I mean, if I hadn't already put together the show list by now, then I would have put some in. But worst comes to the worst, if people enjoy this and want to see more of our radio shows and maybe see if I can try and interview more people, then maybe it'll fit on there. Don't worry.
Indeed.
So that's just about everything. I just want to say thank you very much, guys, and
Absolute
obviously
pleasure, man.
Thank you.
Your shows.
Thank you
song
for
will be-
taking an interest in what we do, man.
Well,
Always
Hey.
appreciate it.
And so after that, here is the news track by these two guys, and I hope you enjoy.
Of course, it would be absolutely vital that our top government and military men be included to foster and impart the required principles of leadership and tradition.
you die. It'll get you just a little bit sick. Got a head cold, got a chest cold, and it's too late, no. Not forever, make a hey, hey, make a lay, hey, got a play, hey. For days and days and days and days and days and years. Well, they got the time now to stay on the job. Double up the dosage in your water supply. Make you even sicker till you're slipping away. Get it on your friends, forget it on your friends, forget. Get it up and up on the rock and roll. The government will. The government will. The government will. Swimming abroad, keeps flowing down the USSR. But meanwhile, we'll keep an eye on what it's doing to you. Got a head cold, got a chest cold, and a string head cold. Going on forever, make a hey, hey, make a lay, hey, got a crazy, hey. For days and 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 years. The government will. The government will. The government will.
That was Dead Kennedys, Government Flu. Hope you enjoyed. So, during this lovely week and everything that has been going on and the beautiful sunshine outside, I mean, I wish I was out there, but I'm talking to you, so you get to enjoy that. We have had some lovely news about a friend of mine. There was a special setup kind of went on, and he got to get married during all this lockdown because there has been so much going on for him, and I'm so happy for them. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be linking during our next set of songs the links, because for part of their wedding presents and all that kind of thing, they wanted to have donations from certain locations. So what I will do is I will share it so that anybody who has been listening and wants to chip in and wants to celebrate this lovely couple's amazing marriage, that is amazing, and I would love to see just more people reach this and help out, because obviously the guy's amazing, one of my closest friends, and so, or at least for the longest time, and so I would want him to, get something out of this. How about that? So Johnny, Danielle, your lovely new wife, if you are listening, and to all the couples and those who just get to be with the person they really want to hold tight at the moment, this next one's for you.
It's kind of funny.
And that was Busted Out of Our Minds from their album Night Driver, which I feel like I enjoy a number of tracks, but not everything's a hit as much as the old stuff. But I have a fun story to read to you. I found this on Twitter a while ago, and it's really quite amazing. It's about how, turns out, right, you can use a sex toy in a nuclear disarmament program. Now, it sounds like the most insane thing in the world, right? And when you think about things, when you think about nuclear disarmament, you think about like basically having to just armor yourself up to such a degree that like nothing could hurt you. You know, you're just shy of a stab-proof vest, really. So like this guy is having a little look around, and he's part of like a massive science team, so it's nothing massive, and sees a little device on the table, which is a little pink toy. And obviously, you know, when you think of a science lab, the pink is not the first item color you're going to think of. Well, anyway, apparently you have to like work with all of these items, right? And like they apparently needed to give me just 2 seconds. Like when you're disarming it, you need to work with like these like glove boxes behind walls of lead bricks, right? And the thing is they had to shake the vial to get some of the stuff out, basically, to make sure it was all nice and cleaned. And genuinely, one person suggested an anal vibrator. Now, this is a thing. Is basically it works to such a degree. It applies things. It applies just the right amount of pressure. They tested this, and it's the most amazing thing. The Twitter thread is there that you can read about, you know, this department at a university level, and like, you know, you've just got your grad student, you're just like looking at this nuclear disarmament program, and they go, oh, by the way, I'm gonna need some of my budget, and I'm gonna need to go to the nearby sex shop, because it's how it's how we're going to work this. And honestly, it's hilarious because apparently as well, it broke. The first one broke. So not only does this awkward kid who's just finished uni has to kind of go and say to their professor, say to their boss, basically, I'm so sorry, but I need to go to the sex shop. They then have to later say, I'm so sorry, I have to go again. and the idea that I mean, it really makes us think though, how many things are we using in life that we could be using in a completely different fashion to fix something, to work around a problem that we wouldn't have realized they can work around. And so really what I would love to see, and either today or before the next show or whatever, just send in whatever you think of that could fix a problem in a way that you wouldn't have normally expected, and whatever it is that you have found that does these things, because honestly, I would love to read these. It's my favorite thing to find that there are multi-purposes for an item where you say, well, it does what it says on the tin, and suddenly now you can do something completely different. I mean, obviously, I'm hoping not to just be bombarded with messages about anal vibrators and how you've managed to make them do something else, because I've got to be honest, I don't want to know that much about you, because, you know, and at the very least, my wife will probably be really angry if that's all that my Twitter notifications are. But, you know, I would love to see it. So just let me know what you've found a new use for in all of this, because it's an interesting and it's a bit of a chaotic time. So yeah, and another little side thing is J.K. Rowling accidentally recently shared some TERF rhetoric to a picture shared by a child, and this is a really weird one, mainly because I mean, obviously, some people don't know what TERFs are. TERFs are trans exclusionary reactionary feminists or radical feminists, depending on what you want to use. I don't want to say... I think anybody who's going to be transphobic isn't considered radical at all, you know, but I use the term in the Tony Hawk sense. And so this is what it says. This is a response to a 9-year-old's drawing. And it's on screen now for you because I thought it was probably nicer to share. And this person's insane. And she's made billions of dollars from this and billions of pounds. Like, she's one of the wealthiest women in the UK. And she responds in such an insane way. And I'm starting to think that in all the good parts of Twitter has some really good moments. You get some stuff that you wouldn't normally see. I'm starting to think it might be something that brings out the worst in people, especially famous people. Because I read something recently where Michael Ian Black, who was in My Wet Hot American Summer, and that's all I know him for, tweeted out something that was basically paedophilia apology. And that was the same with Milo Yiannopoulos, which kind of like broke down his entire book deal and everything. And I know this is a bit of a downer topic, but to be honest, it was just something that I was starting to notice. So, I mean, what should we be doing with our time instead of Twitter? What would be a great way of us sharing a message in a way that doesn't accidentally turn out to be really gross? That's my little message for you and a little hope for you, because I'm at a loss now. Because at the same time, Instagram gets just as bad, and so does Facebook. So what are we doing with ourselves? How are we losing our message? Is it that we're not doing enough with like a long form, including nuance, or is it something else? I don't know. I'm not a genius. I just write long form essays about video games most of the time, and then I do this. So it's not really my wheelhouse. But if you have any ideas, do give it a shout. And as well, I want to say that the Pride community, the LGBT community, did some amazing things recently. They were trying to set about their virtual Pride. And unfortunately, I think I mentioned it earlier, it got cancelled. It was meant to be held last week, but it got cancelled. And that was because somebody who didn't like somebody who was speaking or something else registered their own Pride Parade in a certain way that kind of nullified the actions of the wider Pride movement and the virtual Pride that was trying to be held. So that was a bit of a weird one as far as news goes, and I feel like a lot of people may have been missing out on these kinds of things. So I'm kind of as well, I guess, not to spin doctor my way into sounding like I'm doing more than I am. I'm gonna kind of incorporate that as well. So for our next track, and I'm probably going to play one that, for me, screams everything for the LGBT community and speaks to a lot of people. It is the track Jesus Christ 2005 God Bless America by the 1975 from their new album. So here goes.
I'm in love with Jesus Christ. He's so nice. I'm in love, I'll say it twice. feeling alone, for I'm just a footprint in the snow. I'm in love with a boy I know, but that's a feeling I can never show. Fortunately, I believe, lucky me. Searching for planes in the sea, and that's irony. Soil just needs water to be, and the seed. So if we turn into a tree, can I be the leaves? I'm in love with the girl next door. Her name's Claire. Nice when she comes round to call, then masturbate the second she's not there. Fortunately, I believe, lucky me. Searching for planes in the sea, and that's irony. Soil just needs water to be, and the seed. So if we turn into a tree, can I be the leaves?
Now, I've got to be honest, we've been at this show for a long time, and some of you probably are very tired. So I'm just going to say in my final little snippet here that this has been just a fantastic little experience, and I want to say thank you to everybody who's been taking part and being involved, just listening, sending stuff in. It's been lovely, and I'd love to hear more. So if you've got any ideas for things we can talk about next time, things we can do in the future, that'd be amazing. And I've got a couple of tracks to send out for the amazing people who unfortunately haven't been able to go to the end of year balls and all that kind of thing for their uni things, because that's been the nightmare situation that we're in. As well, I want to say that this is brought to us actually by Granite Anchor Clothing that you can find on Instagram, and if you want, you can get 10% off with my code Raccoon10. That's all capitals, Raccoon, and then the number 10. And I think, really, we should probably head out on some pretty high beat tracks and, well, I guess, blow your best friend a big kiss over FaceTime. How about that? It's been lovely. Catch you later.
I had a feeling you were trouble, the matter pulled you from the rubble. And will we release this disaster piece from the ceiling or the gutter? Get my bleeding heart a flutter, and I can't erase the sad memories. Got time on my hands, I got
Kane is in the building.
Who else really tryna fuck with Hollywood Cole? I'm with Marley G, bro, flying Holly Grove chicks to my Hollywood shows. And I wanna tell you something that you probably should know. This that Slumdog Millionaire Bollywood flow. And my real friends never hearing from me. Fake friends write the wrong answers on the mirror for me. That's why I pick and choose. I don't get shit confused. I got a small circle, I'm not with different crews. We walk the same path, but got on different shoes. Live in the same building, but we got different views. I got a couple cars I never get to use. Don't like my women single, I like my chicks in twos. And these days, all the girls is down the road. I hit the strip club and all them bitches find a pole. Plus I've been sipping, so this shit is moving kinda slow. Just tell my girl to tell a friend that it's time to go.
Now tell me how you love it. You know you at the top and only heaven's right above it. We own it's Young Money, motherfucker. If you ain't running with it, run from it, motherfucker. Alright, now somebody show some money in this bitch. And I got my bees with me like some honey in this bitch. You dig? I got my gun in my boot purse and I don't bust back because I shoot first. Meet me on the fresh train. Yes, I'm in the building. You just on the list of guest names. And all of my riders do not give a fuck. X Games. Guns turn you boys into pussies. Sex change. And I smoke till I got chest pains. And you niggas know I rep my gang like Jesse James. Women are possessive and they wanna possess Wayne. I've been fly so long I fell asleep on the fucking plane. Skinny pants and some Vans. Call me Triple A, get my advance in advance. Amen. As the world spinning, dance in my hands. Life is a beach, I'm just playing in the sand. Wake up and smell a pussy. You niggas can't see me, but never overlook me. I'm on the paper trail, it ain't no telling where it took me. Yeah, and I ain't a killer, but don't push me. Now tell me how you love it. You know you at the top and only heaven's right above it. We own it's Young Money, motherfucker. If you ain't running with it, run from it, motherfucker. Alright, now somebody show some money in this bitch. And I got my bees with me like some honey in this bitch. You dig? I got my gun in my boot purse and I don't bust back because I shoot first. How do he say what's never said? Beautiful black woman, I bet that bitch look better red. Limping off tour cause I made more off my second leg. Motherfucking Birdman Jr., 11th grade. Ball on automatic start. I can hand it to Drake or do a quarterback draw. Wildcat offense, check the paw prints. We in the building, you niggas in apartments. Now come on, be my blood donor. Flow so nice, you ain't gotta put a rug on her. Do it big and let the small fall under that. Damn, where you stumble at? From where they make gumbo at. Kane got the fucking beat jumping like a jumping jack. And you know me, I get on this bitch and have a heart attack. Hip hop, I'm the heart of that. Nigga, nothing short of that. President Carter, Young Money Democrat. Now tell me how you love it.